You remember the exact moment. Maybe it was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Your rescue dog had been home for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of soft voices and slow movements. 3 weeks of food left near the door without asking anything in return. 3 weeks of waiting. And then, without any warning, they walked across the room and put their head in your lap. Not because you called them, not because you were holding a treat. They just chose you. You sat completely still. You were almost afraid to breathe. Because somewhere deep in your chest, you understood that something enormous had just happened. Something you couldn't quite name. Something that couldn't be undone. You didn't know what changed. You just felt it. What actually happened inside your dog's brain in that moment is one of the most remarkable stories in all of behavioral science. Most people think rescue dogs just need love and time. Give them a safe home. Be patient. Let them settle. And eventually, they'll come around. That belief isn't wrong. But it isn't the whole story. What's actually happening inside a rescue dog who has experienced trauma, neglect, or abandonment is a biological process, one that runs far deeper than comfort and deeper still than kindness alone. Their brain has been physically shaped by everything that happened before you arrived. The stress response system, the one that controls fear, memory, and survival, has been running on chronic high alert, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. And it does not reset simply because the danger is gone. Here is what the science has now confirmed, and what most dog owners are never told. For a dog that has been truly broken, trust isn't just a feeling. It's a neurological reconstruction. The brain is literally building new pathways, quieting old alarms, and learning, slowly, carefully, that safety is something real and not a trick. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how that rebuilding happens, and you will see your dog in a way you never have before. Let's start with what the science says, and what it quietly dismantles. The most common assumption about a rescue dog who flinches at a raised hand, hides under the furniture, or refuses your affection is that they are being difficult or emotionally beyond reach. That assumption is understandable, familiar, and wrong. In 2015, Dr. Franklin McMillan, working alongside colleagues including researchers from the University of Pennsylvania, published one of the most thorough behavioral analyses of previously abused dogs ever conducted. They studied 1,169 dogs who had been recovered from hoarding situations and placed in new homes. Every single dog showed elevated fear responses, particularly around strangers and unfamiliar environments, for significant periods after adoption. But here is the finding that changes everything. 100% of the dogs showed measurable behavioral improvement over time. Not most, not the majority, everyone. Separately, Dr. Michael Hennessy at Wright State University in Ohio spent more than a decade documenting cortisol levels. Cortisol is your stress hormone, the chemical released when the brain perceives danger. In shelter and newly rehomed dogs, his research revealed that these dogs showed cortisol levels comparable to animals under chronic stress conditions, even when they were physically safe and receiving proper care. Their bodies were still running threat response programs written by a past that had nothing to do with you. Here is what that means in plain terms. When your rescue dog shrank away from your hand on day one, they were not rejecting you. Their nervous system was replaying a script that someone else wrote in a place you never knew existed. Myth bust moment number 1. Rescue dogs do not arrive grateful, they arrive defended. Those are two entirely different starting points. You were right to feel like something deeper was happening. You just didn't have the language for it yet. You've seen this. Maybe it was last month. A thunderstorm rolled in around midnight. Your rescue dog, who had finally started sleeping on the dog bed near the window, suddenly wasn't there. You found them pressed behind the toilet in the bathroom, shaking, eyes fixed on nothing, and you sat down on the cold tile floor in the middle of the night and placed your hand near them, not touching, just near. And after a long, quiet moment, they slowly leaned toward you. Not much, but enough. That moment had everything to do with what researchers have confirmed in controlled settings. In 2002, Dr. Hennessy's team at Wright State University published a study in the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association showing that sustained, gentle human interaction measurably reduced HPA axis activity. That's your stress response system in shelter dogs. Your calm, nearby presence was not passive comfort. It was an active biological input. It was data their nervous system was processing in real time. Here is myth bust moment number 2. Most people believe the right thing to do with a trembling, frightened dog is to leave them completely alone, to let them work through it. The instinct is kind, but the science shows the opposite is true. Your quiet, regulated presence actively lowers their fear arousal. You are not an intrusion. You are the signal their brain is waiting for. Being there is the lesson. Now let's go deeper. Because what happens inside the brain when trust is rebuilt is not just behavioral, it's chemical, and it involves one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the entire modern history of animal science. In 2015, a research team led by Dr. Miho Nagasawa at Azabu University in Japan studied 30 dog owner pairs in a controlled environment. They measured oxytocin, that's the bonding hormone, the same neurochemical that floods a new mother's brain during her first moments with her child, in both the dog and the owner during interactions that included extended mutual eye contact. The results were published in the journal Science. What they found transformed the scientific understanding of dog-human relationships. When dogs and their owners held extended eye contact, oxytocin levels rose significantly in both species. In the dogs who engaged most in mutual gaze, bonding hormone concentrations rose by more than 130%, and as those levels climbed in the dog, they climbed in the human too, which caused the human to gaze longer, which raised oxytocin in the dog again. Think of it like two tuning forks placed side by side. When one begins to vibrate, the other hums in response. You and your dog are not separate emotional systems. You are a loop. You are constantly calibrating each other. The mechanism runs through the limbic system, that's your brain's emotional processing center, which connects directly to the amygdala, the brain's alarm. When oxytocin flows, the amygdala quiets, and a dog with a quieter amygdala is a dog who is no longer bracing for what comes next. Now, myth bust moment number 3. For decades, popular dog training told you to establish yourself as the alpha, to project dominance so your dog would respect and follow you. In 2004, researcher Elaine Hybe and her colleagues at the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom surveyed 364 dog owners on their training methods and found that dogs trained through punishment and dominance-based approaches showed significantly more behavioral problems than those trained through reward and positive reinforcement. Dominance-based methods do not teach safety. For a traumatized brain, they confirm that authority means harm. Here is the part that tends to stop people completely. The part that, once you hear it, you hold on to. Dogs did not have to choose us. That is what most people never fully sit with. They did not have to come toward us. More than 15,000 years ago, as early wolves began the long genetic divergence that would eventually create the dog as we know it, something remarkable happened. It was not only humans selecting the tamest animals. The animals themselves moved toward human camps. Generation by generation, the wolves who could tolerate human presence survived. The ones who actively sought human contact, drawn to warmth, to firelight, to the sound of familiar voices, thrived. Dogs are not simply creatures that were domesticated. They are creatures that chose domestication. They built their entire neurological architecture for bonding around the possibility of being close to us. In 2013, researchers at the University of Vienna in Austria confirmed this with living dogs, studying 30 dog owner pairs through a series of problem-solving tasks. They found that dogs behaved significantly more confidently and showed lower stress responses when their owner was present, a pattern identical to the secure base behavior seen in human infants with their caregivers. And your rescue dog, the one who arrived flinching, who hid for days, who didn't yet know whether you were safe, carried that ancient architecture inside them the entire time. When they finally chose to lay their head in your lap, they weren't just trusting you, they were completing 15,000 years of longing. So what does all of this science actually ask of you? First, protect predictability above everything else. We know that a traumatized brain is in a state of constant hypervigilance, spending enormous energy scanning for signals of what comes next. The single most powerful gift you can give a rescue dog in recovery is a routine you never break. Feed them at the same time every day, walk the same routes, enter and leave the house in the same consistent way. This is not about control. It's about giving a nervous system that has been repeatedly shocked by chaos enough reliable, repeated evidence to finally conclude that tomorrow will look like today. For a traumatized brain, routine is not monotony. Routine is medicine. Second, make every approach an invitation, never an assumption. Based on what the Nagasawa oxytocin research reveals about how trust is neurologically built, it forms most powerfully through moments of genuine choice. When you crouch down and let your dog choose to come to you, rather than reaching toward them, you are giving their brain a moment of agency. That small experience of control is neurologically healing for an animal that previously had none whatsoever. Third, use your own calm as a deliberate tool. Remember what the cortisol research showed. Your dog is reading your nervous system in real time. Before any close interaction with a fearful dog, slow your own breath first. Lower your shoulders, soften your gaze. You are not just calming yourself. You are transmitting biological data directly into their limbic system. One final warning. Watch carefully for what researchers call flooding. That's when a well-meaning owner overwhelms a recovering dog with too much affection, too many new people, or too many new experiences too quickly. More stimulation is not more healing. Slower is always the safer direction. Remember that Tuesday afternoon, the quiet of a house that had been holding its breath for 3 weeks, the food left near the door, the soft voices, the waiting, and then your dog walking across the room, choosing you. You now know what that walk cost them and what it meant. Weeks of cortisol falling slowly, one day at a time. The oxytocin system quietly coming back online. A brain that had been wired entirely for survival, carefully and patiently rewiring itself for something it had been reaching toward for 15,000 years. Connection, safety, you. You didn't fix your dog. You became trustworthy, and that is the harder, richer, more beautiful thing. They crossed a wilderness of fear to find their way to you, and you, without even knowing what you were doing, held out your hand in the dark and let them come home. If this changed how you see your rescue dog, subscribe and drop a comment below. Tell me, what was the exact moment you knew your dog finally trusted you? Next week, we're exploring something hidden in your dog's silence, a signal they've been sending you every single day that most people never learn to read.